money gives up on the savings accounts, and I say, well, I'll go to the stock market. It looks like a lot of people are making a lot of money. But, you know, if you would have invested in the Dow Jones 5 years ago, and the Dow Jones is close to 13,000 now, to just break even, the Dow Jones would have to be 14,500. So it's a losing game, but this is a consequence. It's a predictable consequence of the destruction of money. And this is what the founders understood. They said only silver and gold could be legal tender, and this would restrain the growth of government. So what else does it do when you can get away with not direct taxation and direct borrowing? You can print the money. You engender the welfare state, the entitlement system, and tragically, the warfare state as well. Spending. That is the reason that I offer the first year to cut $1 trillion as I start.
Yeah.
Woo! Really most important is governments in many ways reflect the attitude of the people. If the people want the entitlement system, we'll end up with entitlements. We've rewarded those members of Congress and politicians for years. Go up there, spend money, borrow the money, tide ourselves over, worry about it on another day. I used to say, we can't do this, we're going to dump it down on the next generation. But I don't say that anymore. We are the next generation. We are facing the consequences now. That's why we have to do something about that. Our rights and our liberties come from our Creator, not from our government. Therefore, in a republic and limited government, the responsibility should be the protection of liberty. And yet we have drifted so far from that. And if we had that, where the government is supposed to protect liberty, what we should do is release the creative energy by emphasizing individual liberty and also emphasizing the fact that if you have the right to your life and liberty, you ought to have a right to keep all the fruits of your labor, not just what the government tells you. System was probably well-meaning. Well, you know, these people need help, so we have to invent this entitlement system to redistribute wealth. Not realizing it's the free society, the private sector, the limited taxes that engenders the large middle class. It's not the redistribution of wealth by the politicians. They may be well intended, but what happens is a special interest gets control. Yes, it would be like saying, well, we have to help people get houses, but can you give everybody a house by making sure that they don't qualify and make people make bad loans and depend on the increase in the number of the value of their house going up? Well, that was intended to help poor people, but who made the money during the housing bubble? The very wealthy, the Fannie Mae's and the Freddie Macs and the banks, the people who speculated in derivatives. When they got into trouble, of course, the middle class lost their jobs and they lost their housing. So the entitlement system doesn't work. You can't say, well, the government can take care of the poor and all. It comes from the government. The government should pay for the medical care and food and housing and education, everything. But the government has nothing. The government never created a thing. They don't have productive jobs. They're destructive and they take money from the productive jobs. So we have to challenge the entitlement system. It sounds very good. They're entitled to this. Because somebody needs something, wants something, or demands something, they don't have a right to something. What we have a right to, we have a right to our life, we have a right to our liberty, we have the right to own our property, we have a right to get the government out of our mouth. Yeah! Segment of the economy that we spend way too much money on, and it's been done traditionally, hundreds if not thousands of years, all big to get wealthy, and they do this by expanding themselves around the world. And we have done way too much of this. What we need to do is have a different foreign policy, not a foreign policy of interference, occupation, what we need is a foreign policy designed to promote peace and prosperity and trade. What we need to do is end the wars and bring our troops home and save. What is happening today from occurring. What they did was they put it in the Constitution that to go to war, it would require the support of the people and a vote of the Congress, but not the executive branch and not by the president. Just think if we would have not fought one war since World War II, since that was the last time we declared war, how much wealthier this country would be. Last 10 years of wars being fought, and nobody knows exactly the reason. And certainly the reasons that we went into these places did not exist. If we did that, and we had just done it for the last 10 years, we would have been $4 trillion richer, and we wouldn't be paying interest on that debt, because that is the amount of debt that we have accumulated over the past 10 years because of the wars in the Middle East. So I say, end the wars and bring our troops home from around the world.